Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again, here with a Q&A. So this Q&A has come from @ScottyH1238. And this question's come up in relation to the Q&A video that I put up yesterday around, do I have my SAS selection record? I put in the title, nope, and what does it say? And I put the answer in there straight off the bat saying, I don't know. So in here, he's got a question saying, what happened between passing selection and commencing Rio cycle? So I know now successful applicants head to Canberra to AIS. I'm assuming that's Australian Institute of Sport. AIS for a recovery protocol, ? So on my one at the time, we finished selection. We had maybe about 5 days to a week in camp recovering. So we got our gear, we moved into the barracks that we were in, which were the barracks for those that were on the reinforcement cycle. And basically just started settling in, using that time to recover. I think there was probably some briefings and some lessons that happened and that took place during that time on my one from memory. And other than that, we used that time to eat and recover and put weight back on. So I don't know if we were on double rations or not in the mess, but I know I definitely went up for seconds and sometimes thirds at the mess hall when we were in that phase of having finished the 21-day selection portion of SASR selection and then recovering and getting ready to get into the reinforcement cycle. So that's what we did. There was definitely no heading off to the Australian Institute of Sport, if that's what that is, for a recovery protocol. It was left up to ourselves to get ourselves right and be ready for the next stage of the reinforcement cycle. So you carry on. Scotty carries on with this question. Then at what point do you get put into squadrons and how does that process occur? So at what point do you get put into a squadron? You don't get put into a squadron until you complete the whole reinforcement cycle or until you complete all the necessary training that's deemed. And the reason why I say that, or that's deemed necessary, and all of it is, don't get me wrong, but some of it can, and probably in our case, on my reinforcement cycles case in Australia, can come down to operational requirement as well. So I ended up in one squadron. We deployed to Iraq in 2003. When we come back off that, that's when we went through and then completed, I think it was the CQB portion. And we went through that. I've spoken about this in a previous reaction and or in an upcoming reaction, whereby I think the need was there. We had done pretty much the majority of the cycle itself. And then we got put into, after our badging, then we went to the squadrons that we were allocated to. So that's pretty much when that happens. It typically won't happen beforehand. As a minimum, you get badged before you go to a squadron. Then you've got, and how does that process occur? Is it based on draft system like in some units in the US, or is it mostly based on retirement/needs of each squadron and your specialities, i.e. breacher, comm, sig, sniper, medic, etc.? Cool question. I think it's probably a bit of a combination of those. I'm not sure what the US draft system is, so I won't speak to that. Is it mostly based on retirements, needs, etc., etc.? So yeah, I think for the most part, it's by and large what the squadrons may need. So I know for my cohort, from my cycle, I think the majority of us went to one squadron, and that may have just been because of the need for that particular squadron, and we were spread out. So I went to vehicle mounted, others went to water operators, and others went to air troop or free fall. So there's all those elements that come into play. The other aspects that you mentioned, comms, SIGs, medic, etc., that would all be part of it. Sniper, during the cycle, we're not doing, not on my cycle anyway, we didn't do a sniper's course on cycle. The sniper course that I was fortunate to do was done once I was already in a squadron, had already been in there for a bit of time, and yeah, it was just one of those courses that I was grateful to get on there, and it just happened to be, I suppose, a little bit of downtime. They're always training, they're always looking to develop capabilities of individuals, and that will help strengthen the unit overall. And I was lucky enough to get on there. So the other stuff though, breaching, comm, SIGs, medic, those things are done during the cycle. You've got here continued. What are your thoughts on the changes to 2 Commander Regiment and SASR joint selection? Personally, I preferred it being separate. I never did the commando selection, so don't get me wrong, so I can't speak to that with any sort of authenticity around it, because I didn't do a commando selection. Even though I ended up and was blessed and fortunate enough to be in 4RAR Commando at the time, and I was blessed and privileged to go on and serve in the recce platoon. They actually asked me where I wanted to go, and I knew that 4RAR was going to East Timor at the time, and I knew that I'd love an opportunity to be part of the recon platoon rather than being in a rifle company. At the end of the day, this is sort of going off tangent a little bit, but just to give some context, I was fully prepared to go through the whole of basic training again for ADF. I was fully prepared to go through infantry core training, which I think they call IETs in the Australian part, Australian Defence Force for infantry. And I wouldn't have cared if I got posted to a rifle company at the end of the day, because I was going there with the intent to do what I needed to do to then apply for selection and then go on selection. So, yep, that part I haven't mentioned in other videos. You know, rather than just being a little bit more humble and accepting of what had happened in the NZSAs at the time, go away, do 6 months, then go back and then get on the cycle again and carry on. I was that stubborn and pig-headed, I was willing to go through all of that again. So anyway, the changes, my thoughts on it, I would have preferred, I like the fact that they were separate, and whatever their rationale is, whatever their reasons are for combining them, I don't know what those are, but they're different units, different culture within those. There's some similarities, but different culture and different capabilities, although there's probably a bit more of a merging effect over the last 20 years of the global war on terror, etc., and the experiences that have been learned. But my thoughts are it should be separate. And anyway, it's not. So they know what they're doing. Well, they're trialing something or whatever you want to call it, and they're going with what they feel is the right approach. So it doesn't really matter what I think, but that's my thought. I think it should have stayed separate, and I would have preferred it stayed separate, but that's just my bias coming in. Here, did you feel a need to bridge the camaraderie between the two units from your experience? For me, in my case, I can only speak for me, not really, because I knew a number of people from 4RAR, and I felt like I had a good relationship with 4RAR, and I had a lot of respect for 4RAR anyway, as it was. Having the privilege to have been there and served there, albeit briefly, to deploy to Timor with 4RAR, and then come back and then spend time training, go on selection, like I had nothing but respect for the commando unit. And even though I never served with 2 commando, I assume, you know, they'd be the same. So I never felt a need to bridge the camaraderie between the 2 units during my time. But, you know, things change. And that's it for yours. There's some Lionel Messi has asked what is a recovery protocol, and then Scotty's been kind enough to reply to that person. I'll leave that there in the comment, but your one, Scotty, had a fair few questions in there, some good questions, and I thought I might as well do this quick video now to try and answer it. So hopefully it helps in some small way, bro, and hopefully you get something out of my ramblings. Thanks very much again, as always, for your time, and anybody else that spent any time here. And as always, the message is the same. Regardless of your challenges, trials, difficulties that you may be going through, just encourage you to keep turning up, keep putting one foot in front of the other, take one day at a time, and just stay in that fight. Things can do and will get better, I promise you. No matter how long, lonely, dark, and miserable that tunnel, that environment, that space that you may be in at this time may feel, I promise you the sun will shine again. Better days are ahead, and there is a light at the end of that tunnel, so just stick at it. As always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there's a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.